Um, we'll move on now to Jeremy. Jeremy Byrne was our trainer. So Jeremy is an IT business relationship manager from beautiful Loughborough University in the UK. And he's responsible for creating and delivering IT strategy for the university as an IT business partner. Jeremy has recently been recognized by Thinkers 360 as one of the top 50 global thought leaders and influencers on education technology. He's also received the 2020 Top BRM Award from the BRM Institute, and he's the BRM Regional Ambassador for the United Kingdom and trains the BRMP and CBRM certifications, which I've been on, trained by Jeremy and Dikaleri as well. And he's got a strong connection with South Africa. Jeremy has trained a number of South Africans in both of these certifications. And as people that are, some of them here, have been on the training, really wonderful to be coached by Jeremy in those areas. So welcome, Jeremy. The same questions to you. What would you say to yourself back on your first day as a BRM, knowing what you know now? How has BRM allowed you to add value to your organization? And how's the pandemic impacted Loughborough University? And how has BRM helped under those circumstances? Over to you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Baz. Thank you for the wonderful introduction there. So yeah, the first point there, so what would you say to yourself back in the early days of your BRM journey? But when I started my BRM journey, there wasn't an existing BRM function at Loughborough University. I had to create it. And as part of that, I started kind of just Googling for BRM best practices and things like that. And I found the BRM Institute, which had just been formed, I think, the year before. And I just dived straight into the Institute, trying to get as much knowledge as possible and getting straight over to Portland, Oregon, to join in the first conference ever and working on the leadership team council and things like that, and just taking in all this information as much as possible, which I think was the right thing to do. But then I think probably the thing which I would have changed going back what I know now would be to just slow it down a bit, because I think you get all this information, all these great tools and advice, and the talk of, being strategic, you'll get the most value out of the role and things. So you just rush to try and become strategic straight away. But I think knowing what I know now, it's more what I've been teaching as well, is saying the 5 levels of maturity from ad hoc to strategic partner. It's kind of like you do each one, you do each one well, you prove yourself up. Generally, I say for a year, and then you move up to the next level and prove yourself there, do that for a year and move up again. So if somebody's really immature, they're at that lowest level ad hoc, and you want to become that strategic partner, plan it as a 5-year journey. Don't try and do it in 6 months, because by going too quick, you can fail and become unstuck. So I think my advice to myself back then would be to just kind of slow it down, take all those best practices, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. So yeah, just plan it and deliver it and get there slowly and get there well. So then thinking about question number 2, how's BRM allowed me to add value to my organization? Well, I've done that journey. I've been on that journey, and we were down at the bottom. We are now at the top. So we are now working strategically and adding that value. One of the big problems we had previously, before we had the BRM function, was there was no transparency of the IT department to the rest of the business. The business asked us for a project or something they wanted, and then a year or 2 later, they either got it or they didn't, and they didn't know how or why. And it was just a complete black box mystery. So we've opened all that up. We've become this transparent department, working collaboratively together, rather than being a service provider and them asking us for things and us delivering it, and sometimes even charging them for it. Got rid of all of that, and we're now working collaboratively, a true partnership, joint ownership, joint value, joint risks, joint reward, everything working together. And that's really changed the culture for the IT department and for the university as a whole, to be more focused on that kind of core value. And for us as the university, it's not about profit and loss. It's about the students, their experience, their education, what they get out of their time at Loughborough. Which brings me on to the last point around how's the pandemic changed relationships in the organisation. at Loughborough, we've got a term which we use where we say Loughborough, we've got the Loughborough family. When the parents come and bring their students to Loughborough, they're told, you know, they're part of a family here. We'll look after them. Everyone's all in this together. And when the pandemic hit, the BRMs were first in there to kind of, right, we're going to drop everything. We're going to run drop-in sessions for people to come along, bring their laptops and their computers and iPads, everything. Bring all your equipment from home, bring it into work, because we're all going to get sent home and locked down soon. Bring it all in and we'll get it all set up and get you set up so you can work from home. Some people have worked from home 1 day a week before, and it, you know, for them it's quite easy. They just go from 1 day a week to 5 days a week. Others had never worked from home before. They brought in computers from home which were like 10, 15 years old, could barely turn on, and we've got to try and get them up and running so they could be functional at home within days. And we did all that. We kind of dropped everything, did that, and then we created kind of how-to videos on how to work from home and how best to set things up. And then we tried to kind of keep those kind of relationships going when people were more distant. So physically we weren't seeing people, we were trying to get everyone talking together and working together. And now we're at a point where the UK, we're in our second lockdown, but Loughborough University has dealt with it really well as a whole. We've got our Vice Chancellor, who's like our CEO level person. He's been going out on a push bike, delivering pizzas to students who are isolating, locked in their bedrooms. We've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds a week on delivering them food and takeaways and all these things, keeping them happy while they're locked in their bedrooms, having to isolate for 2 weeks and taking all their learning online, things like that. So we've delivered 2-year IT projects in 2 months. We've got everything going and everything working, and thankfully it's because we've got this kind of family ethos. We've got the, like we were saying before about those relationships, and it's all built upon relationships and a culture of family and relationships. Luckily we had that culture before, and now we've just really pushed hard on it, and now it's really paying off. You'll see other universities in the UK news getting really damaged by this, saying, you know, they're locking up our students and they won't let them home for Christmas, and, you know, they hate it and all the rest of it, and they're fighting kind of each other, trying to work out how to do this best way. Luckily, we've had a really positive kind of experience and positive outcome from it, as best as you can from a global pandemic, and those relationships have really pushed us through. So I think that's about it. Baz, I'll hand back to you. Unless anybody's got any questions, pop them in chat and I'll answer them in the Q&A.
Thanks, Jeremy. Really interesting. Great to hear those insights, and you know, so true about that. The 5 steps and getting from ad hoc to strategic advisor. I think we all feel as BRMs we're going to get a seat at the table day one. You know, we should just get it, and it doesn't work like that. And the methods that you teach on the CBRM have been really insightful. I wish I'd known some of those things back when we were putting together engagement models. But it is so true, and I suppose it's true for the BA community, and probably true for a lot of the other you know, functions like the PMs as well. So thanks very much for sharing those insights, Jeremy. Great to have you on board.